Alright, here's the fight I had with Jess. She was the chef gym leader. She's running an Alolan Executor, Malamar, Go-Go, Crawdont, Bouffalant, and Vanillux, and I'm using my Mono Ice team. One of the cool things about her gym was that you actually chose which Pokemon you wanted to fight against. It was like ordering off a menu, and you'll see with the nicknames, it's pretty cool. I had a friend actually, he challenged her, and he only ordered one food item, so naturally she only brought one Pokemon. It was a very easy win for him. Anyway, so I'm going to lead up my Mamoswine, and she's going to lead up with her Alolan Executor. It's actually in the order that I actually chose things, so right out of the gate, I'm just going to go for an Ice Shard because I know if this thing is Sash, then whatever, and if it's not, I just knock it out, which just so happens to happen. So Alolan Executor down just like that. I already have some great speed up against me, excuse me, going for me. She's going to go right into her Malamar, and now I'm basically going to set up rocks knowing full well that this thing is going to go for a superpower, and if it doesn't go for a superpower, then I'm a fool, but it does go for a superpower, so that's going to do quite a bit to my Mamoswine, and its attack and defense are both going to get boosted, but that's okay for me, because what I can do is I'm going to go for an Endeavor here to bring it down to 51 HP of its own, which is really good, given that this thing is obviously a dangerous threat to my team, especially because I am Ice type in this fight. So, you know, here we are. Mamoswine's gone, that's okay. So I'm going to send in my Alolan Ninetales because it does have a fairy move that it can use. But I do get a little greedy here, and I'm going to go for the Aurora Veil due to this hail starting up. I didn't want to risk putting my team in jeopardy, and I figured the best way to go about this was to just go for an Aurora Veil, thinking she would switch, but she didn't, and actually went for the rest, which makes things a little trickier for me, especially just because I now have to deal with 2 hits, because it is, in fact, a Chesto Berry variant, I believe. Not a Lumberry either. Yeah, it's Chesto Rest Superpower Malamar. But that's not a huge issue for me since I am faster than it. So I do go for a Moonblast here, but it doesn't quite knock it out, which makes things... Or, excuse me, it does. I was thinking of a different fight, I guess. So Malamar is down for the count. I probably could have gone a little later, but whatever. So here comes her, or I should have gone for the Aurora Veil after, but hindsight's 2020. She's going to go into her Go-Go, and I'm just going to go right for a Freeze Dry, just because it's my Ice move, and, you know, I might as well attack it. And that Go-Go doesn't die, unfortunately. It goes for the Horn Leech, and at this point I'm thinking, okay, I know that I can knock it out in a second hit if I want to, but I also want to keep Alolan Ninetales alive. And so I was thinking, okay, do I go for another? And I end up doing that just because of the fact that, like, it's a clean 2 KO, and I can just sort of ride everything out from here. I'm up 5-3, so I'm not terribly worried. Crawdont's going to come in too, and I have anything and everything to beat this as well. I have the Moonblast and the Freeze Dry. It's going to go for an Aqua Jet, but I know that, like, I should be able to live this just fine, and I end up doing so. And I just go for a Moonblast because it's stab, it's super effective, and it's more base power. I think the more base power ended up being why I chose that over Freeze Dry. So Crawdont goes down, and the hail is over, unfortunately, but I still have my Veil up too, which is really, really nice. Excuse me. So she's going to go into her Bouffalant here. And now I just go for a Moonblast because at this point I feel like I don't really need Veil else to win. I don't need Hail up either. And it's going to go for a Head Charge, which is going to leave me with very low health. And I'm basically just going to sack this Ninetales here because I'm up significantly in numbers, and at this point the Pokemon that I have can really help me out and basically go for the win. And I get the special attack drop too as it goes for another Head Charge, so I wasn't ever really concerned about losing this fight once I had knocked out the Crawdont, because now what I can do is I can go right into my Weavile and Revenge Kill this thing. Excuse me. And I also know that her last Mon is a Vanillux, and hopefully that means that I can actually get another Snow Warning back up and have Hail back out there. So as I go for a knockoff on that Bouffalant and knock off the Assault Vest, which would explain why it wasn't doing so much, her last Mon is in fact the Vanillux, and wouldn't you know it, it gets hit by rocks, and it's got Snow Warning. So right out of the gate, even if this thing does somehow knock out my Weavile, I can just go right into my Alolan Sandslash and effectively go for Iron Head and win. But luckily for me, I just go for a knockout, and it does knock out this Ice Cream Mon, the Vanillux, so I do end up taking the win 5-0, which is really, really nice. And it was a good fight. Had a lot of fun, and I got my second badge of the weekend. Heck yeah. Alright, so this next fight is actually against a really good friend of mine, Dell. If you've been following me along on my channel, you might know that this guy and I actually fought each other way back in 2015 when he was an Elite 4 member using a fire team. I did kind of counter team him a little bit, but it was like all in good fun and whatever. So he's a mono ice team. He was actually Simon the Ice King from Adventure Time, and I'm running my mono ghost team. It's a trick room team, and basically this is always good fights. I always have good fights with Dell. He's a really cool guy. He's actually a gaming journalist too, so if you haven't read any of his stuff or seen any of his stuff, definitely check him out. I'll leave a description or links to his stuff in the description down below. Anyway, I'm going to lead off with my Golurk just to get up rocks because rocks are great against ice. He's going to lead off with his Alolan Ninetales because honestly, who wouldn't lead off with Alolan Ninetales, especially when you're running mono ice? I mean, at that point, you just sort of it's sort of an expected standard. Anyway, so he's going to go for the Aurora Veil. I'm just going to get my rocks. Rocks are really good against ice, obviously, since, like, you know, everything's going to be doing it most of the time 25% upon switches, which is always really nice. So I'm just going to, it's going to go right for a Blizzard here. I wasn't expecting a Blizzard from Ninetales, but I guess I shouldn't be shocked. I am Focus Sash Golurk, but the Hail does remove that, so unfortunately I wasn't able to go for my Dynamic Punch or Stone Edge. I can't remember which one I went for. Anyway, so I'm just going to go right into my Gengar, and I'm basically going to go for a Sludge Bomb. I wasn't able to get Sludge Wave because breeding sucks, so we're just rolling with that. Sludge Bomb would have knocked it out if Veil wasn't there, but unfortunately Veil is up, so this is going to be a 2-hit KO on this Alolan Ninetales. That said, I was expecting him to switch or something, but he goes for the Ice Shard, which is super unconventional. Luckily, it doesn't knock me out, so I do get this Ninetales out of here, but with the 1 HP and the Hail coming down, I am going to go down as well. So I'm in a really bad spot to start things off because, for starters, I did not expect Ice Shard on Alolan Ninetales. I don't think many people would. So I go into my Cofagrigus, and I basically am hoping, okay, I need to get the momentum back on my side. He's got his Mamoswine out, and I know I have Hidden Power fighting on this thing, so if I really wanted to, I could Trick Room and Nasty Plot here, which is what my plan is. He's going to go for his rocks, and I'm not terribly worried about that since my team doesn't fear rocks as much. I do go for a Trick Room here, just in case like the Sand Slash was thinking of coming out, and it's not going to come out anyway because the Hail has stopped. So I go for a Nasty Plot here, hoping that, you know, I can get to a decent level where Hidden Power Fighting will do a nice bunch, and Cofagrigus is naturally bulky, so it does help out quite a bit. So it's going to go for an Icicle Crash, and that's not going to be enough to even 3KO me from the looks of it, which is really nice for me. So I end up going for a Never-Ending Nightmare here. Probably not the greatest play, since I do think Hidden Power Fighting would have knocked out that Mamoswine, but I guess we'll never know. Yeah, so I go for the Never-Ending Nightmare. It's a pretty cool move. It's nice and fun. Ghost Team Z. All these arms. I like to use it with Cofagrigus too because it makes it seem like it's actual arms coming out of the ground. It's just a fun little thing. So Mamoswine does end up going down, which does sort of turn the tide my way again since I have a +2 Cofagrigus with Trick Room up, which is really good. Unfortunately, I did forget that Veil is still up and still going, so I was a little confused. I'm going to go for a Hidden Power Fighting here against this Vanillux, and I was hoping that I could knock it out, and it probably should have, and it probably would have had Veil not been up, but not even, wow. Vanillux is really, really bulky, and unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get the knockout like I had hoped. And Veil does wear off this turn anyway, so I do go for another Hidden Power, and this is the last turn of Trick Room, if I'm remembering right, and that Vanillux is going to go down. But unfortunately, I lose Trick Room, and I lose my, basically, I really can't do anything with this Cofagrigus because his Sand Slash is going to come in. So basically, what my plan was here is to leave it in, go for a Trick Room, and hope that he makes a contact move, like Iron Head, but of course he doesn't. He goes for the Icicle Crash, and it does connect. I was hoping maybe it would miss, but no, my Cofagrigus does go down, unfortunately. So now I'm in a bit of a pickle, because I don't have a ton of stuff that I can use against this, but I do have a Sableye. Now, here's probably the one big thing. This is the biggest decision for me. Do I not Mega and go for a Prankster Will-O-Wisp, or do I Mega, recover, and go for, and then Will-O-Wisp the following turn? I do the latter. just because unless he gets a BS crit, it's not, I'll be able to recover this off just fine. And Icicle Crash, or if I flinch, it's whatever. But I do end up doing fine. I'm going to Will-O-Wisp here, getting the burn onto this Sand Slash, so that this next turn, whatever he does, I should be able to recover and stall him off just fine. And so, yeah, that's how Sableye works. Mega Sableye, you basically just burn things and then recover. So he's going to go for another Icicle Crash, but it's going to do like maybe 30, maybe a little more. Yeah, like 36. And so I get flinched. Yeah, it's unfortunate because if I had been able to recover there, I basically would have. I legitimately think I could have won this game if I recover right there. But unfortunately, since I flinch, I'm not able to sort of stall this thing out, which is really, really unfortunate for me. And that just happens in Pokemon sometimes, that you get bad RNG. So I go into my Mimikyu here, just hoping to, you know, set up somehow, and it's 2 to 3, but he's parried, and he's got Iron Head, but that's okay, because I can go for a Swords Dance here. Unfortunately, there's no Swords Dance on this Mimikyu. It's a Trick Room Mimikyu. Yeah, not the greatest Pokemon, but I do have a red card on it, so I can sort of switch things out. And it goes into Cloyster, probably the one Pokemon I was hoping it wouldn't go into. I was hoping for it to go into Rotom Frost here, because at least then I knew that I would be able to do some damage to it. But Cloyster is so tanky just as is, so it's annoying. Anyway, he's going to go for the Ice Shard here. I'm just going to go for a Play Rough. I don't have a way to boost, unfortunately, so literally I'm just trying to do as much damage as I can. I probably could have gone for a Shadow Claw, to be honest. Actually, I don't think I'm running Shadow Claw on this. I think it's Sneak, Trick Room, Play Rough, and something else. Anyway, he's going to go for an Icicle Spear here. I mean, it makes sense, but this is going to get really close to knocking me out, unfortunately. Oh, it does actually knock me out. Sorry, I had miscounted. Yeah, so my Mimikyu goes down, and at this point, I'm like, okay, so I have to basically crit to win, which is unfortunate, but I do have Trick Room up. I do have Alolan Marowak out. And I have 2 rounds of Trick Room left after this, and I go for Flare Blitz. I probably shouldn't have revealed Flare Blitz there, especially because this Alola Marowak is actually Rock Head and not Lightning Rod, which does come into play later, but I have one last turn of Trick Room. He's keeping the Rotom alive for a reason, which is a very smart decision on his part. So, but I can just keep going with Alolan Whack, and I'm basically thinking, okay, I have to live this either Thunderbolts or Blizzard that this Rotom Frost is going to come out, and then hit it back with Flare Blitz, and I can still win this. It's still a win is possible here. So it's coming out, and well, he's running Electrium Z on this Rotom Frost, which again did not see coming at all, which is really unfortunate because had I been Lightning Rod, that wouldn't have affected me, but then I probably would have taken a lot of damage from recoil with Flare Blitz, but still, it's whatever. He later told me he wasn't actually paying attention, that I did take recoil, so that's even more unfortunate on my end, but I guess that's team building. So unfortunately, my Marowak does go down here, which means I do take the L against Dell. But that's okay because he and I are good pals, and I did get to fight him later on in the weekend. It was a really good fight, and if you haven't checked out his stuff yet, definitely go do that. Links down in the description. Alright, so now we have a doubles fight between the pirate multi-fight. I was fighting with a friend of a friend, and so I brought 3 Mons, I had 6 Mons, they had 6 Mons, and overall it was one of those things where the pirate theme was water and dark types, so naturally all my double stuff is rain, so I just sort of told my guy, hey, I only have stuff for rain, so we can make this work if you work with me. So, right out of the gate, Yazmina and Clay are issuing fights. Obviously, that's kind of strange. So I'm leading off with Tapu Koko, and my partner led off with Gyarados. That's to get to the Electric Terrain and Intimidate off at the same time, which is really nice. And our opponents were sending out a Silvally Dark and a Liepard. I thought the Silvally was Water initially, which actually made things a little easier for me because it's dark. Tapu Koko is running Dazzling Gleam, so I can use that spread attack really nicely. And Gyarados gets off the Intimidate, which is really nice. And the Prankster Liepard sets up Rain Dance for me, so I didn't even need Pelipper in this fight, which is really nice. And Tapu Koko is running Thunder because this is a Rain style doubles thing. So I go for the Dazzling Gleam on my Tapu Koko, and it does knock out the Liepard. It doesn't quite knock out the Silvally though, but that's okay because Silvally doesn't have the greatest moveset, though it does get Thunderbolt. And that is going to knock out the Gyarados because with Electric Terrain and the quad times weakness, Gyarados is going to go down really quickly. So my partner sends in his Metagross, his shiny Metagross, and the new Pokemon that comes out is going to be Empoleon. It's really, really nice for me because I tell my guy he sort of knows to go for the Bullet Punch onto the Silvally here when he Megas, and that's going to knock out Silvally as well, hopefully. That's what I was thinking, at least when I was making, when we were making calls. And sure enough, Bullet Punch will in fact knock out Silvally because Mega Metagross is a monster. And so Tapu Koko just goes for the Thunder just because it's Rain, there's Electric Terrain, it's going to hit like a madhouse. And Empoleon is going to go down as well, which is really, really good for me. And obviously I'm Life Orb. So Greninja's going to come in now. Pretty sure this is Protean. And also the Crawdont, which is also really nice. And so I know that I can just go for a Dazzling Gleam and basically win. And it's going to go for a Shadow Sneak onto this Metagross, which is alright. And no, it's actually an Ash Greninja. I was wrong. So this is going to go for a Bullet Punch onto Greninja as well, just to get off some chip. And I'm going to go for the Dazzling Gleam here again, just to get this thing, because Crawdont is slow and Greninja, they're both Water Dark, so they're going to go down right to this Dazzling Gleam, which is very, very good for me, because it basically just means that I've won the game, just right there, with this last Pokemon, Blastoise, coming out. And this is a Mega Blastoise too, so, you know, obviously you could do like Dark Pulse, or you could do Water Pulse in the rain. It's obviously a very versatile mon. I wouldn't exactly choose it for doubles, but hey, that's just me. So I'm going to go for a Thunder here, just because I still have Electric Terrain, I still have Rain. There's no reason not to, and so I am going to knock out this Blastoise, and that is going to be game. A pretty easy win, I'd say. Tapu Koko, Life Orb Koko putting in a ton of work against these guys. Anyway, good game. I won my next badge, my third badge, I think. And yeah, it was a good fight. It was a very good fight.